Hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Worth It Then Worth It Now, an ongoing segment I run here where I look at games of yesteryear. They're not exactly in vogue or in season, but generally they're near and dear to my heart, things I want to go back to and revisit. I try and line it up with a sale where possible. Not hard, given we're in the sale season, and today we're looking at Tomb Raider. The remake, 2013 according to the Steam release date. I don't think I really played it much on Steam and played it more on console, but I actually have a real soft spot for this game and it was cool dropping back in and letting nostalgia flow over me. I guess it's semi-relevant because they have announced another reboot of Tomb Raider coming out shortly, I think in this year. That'll be fascinating to check out because they're going for the really OG 90s blue tank top fighting, dinosaurs with dual pistols, so much more into those arcadey roots. This went for one of those gritty remakes, I suppose, but right when it was still novel, right? Before, well, nowadays, where a lot of that stuff is eye-rolling and played out, and like all fad or wave or genre shift that happens in any community, it's got to start somewhere, and when it starts, it's usually pretty good. Like I often point out to people, loot boxes weren't the devil when they came out. The reason they took off so well is because everyone really liked them and they seemed promising, and that was well before they were used so exploitatively in the golden era, the tip of the spear. And much like that, this was right on the beginning of doing remakes, reboots, and it really had a lot of passion gone into it. It's not necessarily worried about ticking boxes. It obviously is a chick in the wilderness, but she's not what you would probably call a girl boss by modern standards. She very much goes through the arc of being a fairly, doe-eyed, unassuming, small stature, fit, athletic, but just a kind of normal academic girl, right? Who is on this expedition. It's very important to her, but she's part of a greater team. She's not in charge, but they do follow her intuition that leads them not only to where they need to go into this Devil's Triangle thing, but also into the disaster catastrophe situation. And she's wrestling with that guilt and blaming herself, but at the same time, how else are you going to find this mythical Atlantis adjacent other than doing exactly what you did? And the way that they really illustrate this is probably twofold. One is what this game is really well known for, and to call it torture porn would probably be accurate. Lara can die to just about everything she will. There is almost a trial and error. The game knows that its grisly death animations are up there with things like, Dead Space, for example. There is something kind of masturbatory even about the developers really just going in on finding horrible, awful ways for Lara to be killed. I haven't seen it yet in this remake, but I do remember, flowing down rivers and getting caught on a spike and copping it right to the neck. To the throat. But it helps reinforce, that the kid gloves are off. Like we're not playing in a gentle space. This poor 5'0" little girl is going to get crushed, stabbed, gouged, shot, every horrible thing possible to her. And again, I find that really helps reinforce in a grisly kind of gross way her hero's journey of gentle to competent. The other side of it, which is the thing that they just keep missing in so many modern female characters in games, is that they are willing to show her vulnerability, right? Obviously, I've only dipped in just to the early hours for B-roll, but it's all coming back to me. She's separated from her group early and connected to her mentor by radio, but she's like, come get me, come save me. He's like, I literally can't do that. I'll try and support you through it, but it's time to toughen up, essentially, right? He gives her a pep talk, but a gentler one than that. But she's got to figure out how to survive, and she despairs and she curls up in a ball and cries and is pathetic, as any of us probably would be, going from a cushy lifestyle into having to survive against murderous dudes on an island and maybe supernatural stuff and wolves trying to eat you. And, she really does despair and show the human side that is missing in all these girl boss characters. And you know what? Honestly, there's a lot of poorly developed male characters in modern games as well. A lot of mainstream writing has gone down, irregardless of the lead's gender. But what this makes for between the grisly deaths and uncaring, almost cruel world, and Lara's, you know, I'm gonna break down and cry and realize it's not gonna get me anywhere. You end up with a really interesting origin story before they were sort of played out and abused by the industry. So yeah, it's a really good AAA action set piece type game. You know, a lot of framed camera work. They lean into a lot of shaky, jittery camera, which I don't think works quite as well. It's kind of not giving me a headache, you know, I'm not that soft, but it's jarringly noticeable. It's like, I get that you're going for a sort of handy-cam vibe in your cutscenes. I don't think it really holds up quite so well. But all the action set piece and, you know, you've got the quick time and your actual controls are pretty basic. You don't have a sprint button. You've got like a Scrabble button, which is a dodge of sorts. You've got a jump, you know, and you can shoot and fire your guns. But that's about it. It's pretty basic, but it works. It works really well. And again, it's leaning into a more of a Nathan Drake cinematic thing, albeit not really humor. This is all very miserable and dire, but it is mixed in with the cornerstones of something like a Tomb Raider game, at least through a gritty remake perspective. There are explorable areas. You know, there's collectibles. Games were still collectible crazy back then, but there are also like explorable kind of mini tomb areas off the beaten path with really interesting puzzles. There's a sort of flame propagation, kind of a cheat fire system. Even in the early stages, they lean into it. You know, you use it to see and light, but going through waterfalls will wipe out the fire. Lighting things on fire to make even just basic supplies drop on the ground that you can use for a very rudimentary crafting and upgrade system at campfires. And even then she'll do like little diary voiced entries going through her trials and tribulations. And it helps keep the story going while also giving you not really an open world. The other games later on go much more open world, but there is still these instances that you can explore around and collect stuff and level your character up a bit more. And the combat is tight as you would expect. It still holds up just fine. Bows and arrows, guns, you go through the whole gamut. You end up machine gunning outposts by the end of it. I've pretty much just recently played past a bit where she kills her first person, and it's brutal, it's grisly, honestly, it's not even really something that should be put on YouTube, I reckon. It would probably get censored. And, you know, and she breaks down and has a miserable, awful time. And, you know, this doesn't sound like the best pitch. It sounds like a pretty miserable game, and it kind of is. But if you do like a bit of that gritty survival through tribulation, you know, things like the Revenant and that sort of stuff, trying to overcome the wilderness, but also antagonists on top of it. Like, the weaker parts are your peripheral crew members and friends that you're sort of trying to save and help because you're the one that's kind of going a bit native and leveling up and becoming badass. They're all sort of static. It's a bit Far Cry 3 in that regard. But at the end of the day, the moment to moment, the action, the world still looks good. I think all the graphics are great. The cutscenes, even the opening one, just hold up so well, surprisingly so. I'm just really impressed with, you know, how timeless in the end this actually is. Looking forward to playing more of it. I would suggest checking it out if you never did check them out in the first place. You know, you can get it for a couple of bucks at the moment. You'd be mad not to. The second game I played a chunk of, but I don't remember quite so much. This one I must have come back to over the years a few times and I'm quite fond of. And the third one I don't know if I even touched. They're all sitting there in my library staring at me, and I've heard that it maybe loses the thread a little bit, and I'm a big fan of Origins. You know, I like the Fellowship of the Ring and all that, the beginning of a hero and handling that, going from normie to hero, and how do you do that? And I think they do it kind of masterclass here. So at least, even if you just played this one game in isolation and not the rest of the series, I think it's really quite wonderful. Arguably not even really a Lara Croft game. Maybe. It depends how much of a purist you are. They've always been much more arcadey and, like I said, shooting dinosaurs with dual pistols and all. But for what this is, for someone who's not really an original Lara Croft Tomb Raider fan, I really like this game. I always like this game, and I'm just really happy that I get to show it to you and that it still holds up. Anyway, let's put a pin in it there for the moment, team. Might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.